The United States government has deported approximately 250 individuals to El Salvador. These individuals are alleged to be gang members. The deportations have sparked significant controversy. This is because they were carried out despite a court order halting the flights. The Trump administration's decision to proceed with the deportations raises serious legal questions. It also highlights the administration's hardline stance on immigration. The deportees, most of whom are Venezuelan nationals, were flown to El Salvador over the weekend. They are accused of being members of various gangs, including the notorious MS-13. The Trump administration argues that these individuals pose a threat to national security. They claim that the deportations are necessary to protect the American people. However, critics argue that the administration is circumventing the law and putting the lives of these deportees at risk. The decision to deport these individuals to El Salvador is particularly concerning. El Salvador is grappling with its own gang violence problem. The country has a long history of civil unrest and human rights abuses. Critics argue that sending these deportees back to such a volatile environment is inhumane. They also point out that it could further destabilize the region. The Trump administration's actions have drawn condemnation from human rights groups. They accuse the administration of violating the rights of these deportees. The ACLU has filed a lawsuit challenging the deportations. They argue that the administration is acting unlawfully by ignoring a court order. This case is likely to have significant implications for the future of immigration law in the United States. To justify these deportations, President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. This law, enacted during a time of war with France, grants the president broad authority. He can detain and remove foreign nationals deemed enemies during wartime. The act's use in this instance has ignited a firestorm of controversy. Critics argue that it is a dangerous precedent. They say the act is being used against individuals who have not been charged with any crime. This is not the first time the Alien Enemies Act has been invoked. It has been used sparingly throughout history, primarily during times of declared war. During World War I, it was used to detain and deport German nationals. In World War II, it was used to justify the internment of Japanese Americans. These actions are now widely condemned as discriminatory and unjust. The Trump administration's decision to invoke the Alien Enemies Act in this case is unprecedented. Never before has it been used against individuals associated with a criminal gang, rather than during a formally declared war. This move raises serious questions about the limits of executive power. It has also fueled fears among civil liberties advocates. They worry about the potential for abuse. The use of the Alien Enemies Act in this instance is a stark reminder of the delicate balance between national security and individual rights. The Trump administration argues that it is acting within its authority to protect the country. However, critics argue that the administration is exploiting a law designed for a different era. They say it is being done to advance a xenophobic agenda. The deported individuals are now being held in El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, known as SICO. This facility is a mega prison designed to hold up to 40,000 inmates. Human rights groups have criticized the prison for its harsh conditions. They cite overcrowding, inadequate sanitation, and a lack of access to medical care. The prison, located in a remote area of El Salvador, is heavily guarded. Inmates are kept in large, crowded cells with limited access to natural light or fresh air. Reports from inside the prison paint a grim picture of life for those incarcerated there. Former inmates have described experiencing psychological torture. They speak of physical abuse at the hands of guards. The decision to house these deportees in SICO has drawn sharp criticism from international observers. The United Nations has expressed concern about the prison's conditions. They have urged the Salvadoran government to improve the treatment of inmates. Human rights groups argue that holding these deportees in such conditions violates international law. The United States government is providing financial assistance to El Salvador to help cover the costs of housing the deportees. The Trump administration has defended this arrangement. They argue that it is a cost-effective way to address the issue of gang violence. However, critics argue that the U.S. is essentially outsourcing its responsibility for these individuals to a country with a poor human rights record. The legality of the Trump administration's actions is now being challenged in court. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, filed a lawsuit arguing that the deportations violate the rights of the individuals being deported. They contend that these individuals have a right to due process. They say they were not given an opportunity to challenge their deportation. A federal judge issued a temporary restraining order halting the deportations. However, the Trump administration defied the order. They argued that the judge lacked the authority to block the president's actions. The administration's defiance of the court order has raised serious concerns about the separation of powers. It has also fueled a growing sense of crisis within the American political system. The deportations have also sparked a political firestorm. Democrats have condemned the Trump administration's actions. They call them cruel and inhumane. They have accused the administration of using the deportees as political pawns. Republicans have largely defended the president's actions. They say he is taking necessary steps to protect national security. The controversy surrounding the deportations is likely to continue for some time. The case is expected to make its way through the courts. It may eventually reach the Supreme Court. In the meantime, the fate of the deported individuals hangs in the balance. They face an uncertain future in a country struggling with its own challenges. Subscribe to our channel for more updates. This is News Scope, keeping you informed.